Hey everybody, welcome to On the Clock with Caroline Clark. We're so glad you're here today. I'm Caroline Clark, Chief Brand Officer of Women of Power, and we have a fantastic guest on the Clock today. Dr. Valerie Daniels-Carter is co-founder and CEO of V&J Holding Companies, a Milwaukee-based mega franchise operation. Now, what you really need to understand is that she is the most successful female franchisee in the nation. And I did not say most successful Black female franchisee, although she would be that too. I said straight up most successful woman franchise owner in the nation. She built this business with her brother from a single Burger King in the early 80s into a 137 franchise entity with brands we all know, from Auntie Annie's Pretzels and Haagen-Dazs ice cream to Pizza Hut and Coffee Beanery, as well as others. The thing about Valerie Daniels-Carter, who is a former legacy honoree at the Women of Power Summit, is that she also happens to be an incredibly inspiring leader. And she's doing some exciting things in the midst of this pandemic and this multi-layered, difficult and pivotal time that we're all in the midst in. So we're happy to check in with her today. Hi, Valerie. Thank you so much for joining us.
Well, hello, and thank you for having me. It is my joy and privilege to be with you on today. It's just exciting to even be a part of your show, which I know will be a blessing to so many people.
Well, that's really the hope. And you know, we've covered your business, Valerie, since the beginning, and it's been thrilling to watch how it has flourished over the years. I'm really curious to know, and I know all of the entrepreneurs watching are as well, how have your businesses been impacted over the last 5-6 months?
Well, I'm very transparent, as you know. We've had huge impact over the last almost 6 to 7 months now. Because we're in a space where we depend on consumers to come in and share with us. However, because we have been impacted in such a massive way, did not stop us from our mission and our purpose of what we needed to do in order to try to provide the best platforms we could for our employees, our customers, and our company. So to say that we were not impacted would be a misstatement. But to say that we are moving beyond impact would be where I am today. And, you know, I want to make sure everyone understands the only way we can support one another or help one another is to be honest with one another and try to be that bridge that carries the other one over. So yes, we've been impacted. We have restaurants that are still closed. We have restaurants that only have drive-thrus open, no ability for the consumer to come inside. Then you have the threat or the fear that many live with in terms of eating out. So that's on the food side of the business. On the real estate side of the business, of course, we have situations where we have had to work with individuals relating to their ability to pay in order to help them stay in business. So both major entities that we operate in, Carolina, have been impacted.
Yeah. How when this all started, you know, it's funny because it feels like yesterday and it feels like so long ago, right? We've been in this pandemic now. You know, and I think initially there was this looming sense of uncertainty, but none of us thought we'd be sitting here now, September, October, still in the midst with no clear end in sight. How has your approach from a business perspective and your sensibility about all of this evolved through this time from March to now?
I've taken it day by day because each day brings a different challenge. One minute you're told, okay, you can go back and start re-engaging. 2 weeks later, you're told pull back and everything is shifting and changing. So it does cause us to be able to have to be nimble and be able to be flexible and change as things change and create strategies where we used to create a strategy 2 years out, 3 years out. We're creating different strategies every other week to try to make sure we can manage through the next whatever. And so I think that's the key, is not becoming so caught up in the fact that your plan that you're supposed to have by year end is not going to be met. It really doesn't matter right now if that plan is not met. What is your plan for today?
Yeah, I know that you mentioned earlier an emphasis on the customer, obviously for good reason. You're also dealing with parent companies in the franchise business, but day to day, I know you're also managing a workforce significant in size, and their own fears and their own families and their own degrees of being on the front line. What have been the keys to managing that effectively?
It's been tough because, as you know, we have thousands of employees that look to us to protect and ensure that they have continuation of income. And so for me, I've basically placed myself on the back burner and placed our employees in the forefront. And my decisions have been based on what is best for the employee that will somewhat keep them engaged and protected. And so we've looked at some strategies. We have had to have some furloughs. We've tried to keep them limited. And even though they may be furloughed, we've tried to offer different and other types of assistance to help them with their housing or food or whatever's needed. So yes, we're managing through a different season where employees really are fearful, because for a minute, a lot of people were getting unemployment. They were pretty happy. But then there was a stoppage to some of the income that they were receiving. And now they're having to refocus. In some cases, they were getting more money on unemployment than they would have been getting, working every day when you add up all the checks they received. So they got a little happy. And now that things are a little tight, they're trying to figure out, well, how do we get back to, an even platform, if you will. So yeah, it's been a challenge to make sure people maintain their health insurance, because that's critically important. If somebody gets sick, they need to be able to go and be taken care of. So we've tried to create a platform where people can maintain their insurance, they can maintain the necessities of life, and we've been blessed to do that so far, and hopefully, and I believe that we will continue to be able to do that.
How about personally? You have your own life, you have your own family. You're not just a businesswoman. You're very involved and instrumental in the community there in Milwaukee. What have been the major challenges for you personally during this time, and how have you moved through them?
Well, probably the greatest challenge is, I have a son that's at home with me, and he is an amazing young man, but I don't know about spending as many hours as we spend in the same house together. So we kind of got this rule where the upstairs is his and the downstairs is mine. We had an unspoken rule like that before, but now it is, definitely the rule. But it has been a good opportunity for, in some cases, us to share things that we probably never would have shared, because we both have very busy lifestyles. So to that degree, it has been a blessing to hear some of his conversations on certain matters, because he is a young man, 26, 27 years old. They have their own set of let's just call them fears, relative to what is the next thing for Black males. And so to sit down and have in-depth conversation with him as to what do you think, or what do you believe can be done in order to shift and change our society, has been very helpful, because I have a number of African-American males and females that work in our organization, and I don't want people to live in fear. I want them to feel like they have a sounding board where they can come to their CEO or the person in charge of their company and have these conversations about what's going on in their life. because employment is not just about a job. It's about what can that job also do in order to support you as a person. And so we look and try to hear not only from my family members, but from our employees, because they are part of my extended family. I really do believe that. I love my employees probably a little bit too much, as some of them say. They're a little jealous of the other one, but that's okay. But I really do. I have a passion for the people that work for me and try to protect them. But in terms of my family, I guess the biggest challenge for us is every Sunday. Every Sunday, we don't miss a Sunday unless we're traveling. Everyone meets up at my home, and we have dinner. We sit around, we talk. We tell them to leave their feelings at the door, because if they come in, it's no telling what somebody's going to say about you. We have a great time, and the isolation has somewhat limited that, if you will, because we have some great nieces and nephews and some teenagers that we want to make sure stay protected. And we have some seniors in our family that we want to make sure they stay protected. And so, I have the pleasure of helping care for my aunt and my uncle, my mother, only living sibling. And they're in their mid to late 90s. And I want to make sure they're taken care of. So yeah, it is really challenging. They feel isolated sometimes, and encouraging them to let them know, hey, you're okay. You're okay. You just sit here for a minute and we're going to be okay. So yeah, family time is precious, but right now it also has to be managed.
What have been the surprises for you during this time? It's been such a deeply layered season, right? We're dealing with health challenges. We're dealing with uncertainty. We're dealing with global challenges, just of mobility, not knowing what the future will be, employment challenges, financial challenges, Black Lives Matter, safety. It's like there have been so many days when I think we've all thought there just cannot be one more thing, right? There just can't. This just cannot be one more thing. And then inevitably there's been one more thing. So, as you move to manage all of the demands that this places upon you as a mother, as an employer. I know you're a minority owner in the Milwaukee Bucks. Sports is dealing with all of these mammoth challenges. I know you are a deeply, deeply rooted in faith woman, but what have been those moments that have caused you to really have to dig super deep to get to the next moment?
To be honest with you, I really believe it is just simply the insensitivity of people, and their inability during such a devastating period not to want to be broader in thought, in action, and in deed. When you see someone hurting or you see someone in need, look like, I guess maybe it was the way I was raised. I don't know. There should be a level of compassion inside of you that says, what can I do to make things better? Not what can I do to create havoc, or what can I do to create disruption. There's enough disruption going on. And so for me, it really has been watching the insensitive nature of individuals that have really no core values, and they're self-centered and self-directed, and not willing to step up, aid, and assist in this time. So that really has been the greatest thing. You see the real, I guess, nature of a person. You see the real personality of a person when they're under pressure and when they're under distress. The things that an individual generally does under pressure really dictates what their internal personality is like. And understanding that your internal personality will dictate what your health or your mental status can be. Because you can really, and I believe this, you can really allow yourself to feel better if you think better. You can allow yourself to be better if you are better. And so just watching the hatred that exists has really been alarming. You know it exists, but the level that it has risen to is just, in my opinion, very harmful.
So what has all of this inspired in you? How have you transformed during this period? You know, you mentioned the fact, and I think it's certainly true, that sort of crisis reveals who people are, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's a real telling pivot point at which
Mm-hmm.
particularly leaders reveal sort of their true stripes. What have you found this is revealing in you, and how is it sort of shifting perhaps the arc of your leadership platform as you go forward?
It is shifting me as a leader because, as most people know, I really do like my quiet space, and you don't really see me publicly a ton of times doing a ton of things, but under the table, I do what I think I believe is right to do because that's just the way I am, and I don't have to be, my name doesn't have to be called in order to be a contributor. But it has forced me to step outside of my quiet space and to step into a different arena to say there needs to be voices that are from individuals who I believe have a high degree of respect, a high degree of integrity, a high degree of motivation, individuals that really do care to step up and send a clearer message that says we, as a people, believe that there has to be a solution, and we want to be part of the solution. And so for me, right now, I'm stepping outside of my comfort zone to say, what is it that I can do to be a part of the solution rather than, kind of sitting back and not being as aggressive in terms of presentation.
So what does that mean? What does that look like?
Well, I guess it starts with this series I'm starting on the 22nd with a thing called Power to Win. Because I recognize that when you've been confined for the period of time that we've been confined, you need somebody to tell you that you can win. And I wake up every day telling myself, I'm going to win today. And it may not be the greatest day, to be honest with you. It may not be the best day, to be honest with you. But I wake up telling myself, I'm going to win. I'm going to take on whatever challenges are coming my way. I'm going to deal with them. I'm going to manage them. And by the end of the day, guess what? I will have conquered them. So it starts with the series I will start on the 22nd of September, Power to Win. As a matter of fact, I probably have not, maybe in several years, written a song. I decided to write a song. So I wrote my theme song. And I sat at the piano and I began to play and I began to sing to myself. Power to win, again and again. Courage to grow. I've got the power to win. And I started playing the music, and I got happy just sitting there playing the music in my own self. So I know, if nothing else, the music will be inspirational. But I think the words that I will share will be just as powerful. And it is designed for a platform of both male and female to understand that you're going to have certain struggles. The first phase is called the reality to recovery. And I want people to start talking about what I'm going to look like when I come out of this. And so I wrote a book that will be released during this series called From Pandemic to Promise. And the book really deals with the various pandemics that have occurred worldwide over the last several hundred years, but then the promise that was fulfilled because of what individuals were able to do behind the storm. So living through the storm is one part of it, but coming out of the storm is a greater reward. So the reality of recovery will deal with perception versus reality, because unless you really identify where you are, and you have to tell yourself, you know what, I've been a little down. You may have to tell yourself, I've been a little depressed. You may have to tell yourself, I've been a little challenged. But then you have to say, what can I do to shift that? And making the shift is where I'm going.
How do you do that though when, it's one thing to admit to yourself you've been a little depressed, you've been a little challenged. I think part of so many people struggle right now is that they're just utterly overwhelmed by the magnitude, right? You have people who have physically been extremely ill, and are dealing with residual effects from COVID-19. You have people who have lost loved ones, just literally thousands upon thousands of people who have lost loved ones to this pandemic or lost loved ones in the midst of this pandemic and not been able to see them, not been able to say goodbye, not been able to make sure that they have ample care or to bury them and be comforted, appropriately. You have people in struggle financially, losing businesses, losing jobs, just the sheer magnitude of these layers of things can feel so heavy. And there's the looming uncertainty of like, when's the gate going to open, right? Where's the light at the end of this tunnel? We know it's going to pass, but the when, especially in places in this country where, let's be honest, the days are getting shorter, it's getting darker, it's getting colder. These are things that in normal times affect so many people's ability to be resilient and to feel, right, the promise of possibility. So how do we deal with that piece of it?
Well, I have to start with where I am and what has assisted and aided and helped me to get beyond the norm, if you will. And that's through faith. You have to stand for what you believe. And you have to really, at a time like this, and I've lost, in February, I lost my brother, who was very close to me. And then a few months ago, I lost an uncle to the coronavirus who was like a brother, who almost every day we had some type of interchange or conversation. And so I've lost individuals through this season. I've lost friends through this pandemic, those that were very close to me. So I know what it is to feel the loss. I knew what it was like to feel the loss when I lost my husband, and I know what that pain can feel like. So I'm not talking from someone that's just giving you information and hoping that it works. I'm speaking from the heart. I'm speaking from the voice of one that has walked through dark days and seen situations where you didn't know actually tomorrow how you were going to make payroll, or been there, done that, understand what it feels like when you're trying to figure out how do you take care of the next thing that needs to be taken care of, and how do you prioritize what's important and then decide how you're going to communicate the things that you couldn't get to. So it's not a situation, to be honest with you, where I am sharing with individuals from a book that has no heart or meaning or substance to it because it is just written words. It is a written life. So I'm sharing my life's experience. My life experience said the darkest moment in my life was when I lost my husband, and then right behind my husband, less than about a year later, lost my mother, the two most critical people to me, because my father died when I was a high school student. And even though it was a different type of loss, it wasn't having the loss of your greatest supporters that had supported you through your whole career and motivated you and helped you, groom you and make you what you were. So for me, I have to be honest, I'm speaking everything that I'm speaking from experience and from my heart. I'm going to be sharing with entrepreneurs how to really analyze what you have and determine who you're going to pay and who you're not going to pay. and why you're going to pay them and why you're going to call them and tell them why right now I can't pay you, and how to have that proper level of communication and sharing the right type of information with them that will allow other people to respect them because they picked up the phone and said, you know what, your mall is closed. I have no income coming in from that mall. How do we work together through this season until you get customers and I get business? So we're going to be talking through all of those types of things. As a matter of fact, we're going to be talking through shifting some of your thought patterns on how you do business and who you do business with. Because when times like what we're living through right now start, you need to know who you're in business with. Some people say you need to know who you're in bed with, but you need to know who you're in bed with all the time. But at the end of the day, it's got to be such that the relationship is there. And you may have had a past bad experience where you did not take care of business the way that you should have. What now makes that individual trust you? So those are the elements we're going to be sharing through the series, and walking through examples and protocols that hopefully will help individuals to manage. I have to tell you, I never had a situation where I thought I would have almost 40 malls shut down overnight. So from going to having that kind of income to zero, what do you do? So I'm going to really be dealing with the reality of how to manage through this stuff.
Yeah. What is as you go into this and you think about who's going to take this journey with you over the 12 weeks, what is the thing? Is there one sort of guiding principle, hope, prayer that you want the people who take this journey with you to come out of it with?
I think that they will be better because of it. If they can tell me, I started with you on September 22nd, I walk with you for 12 weeks and I'm better, I will be rewarded. And that better may be, financially better. That better may be business savvy better. That better may be I'm better with my family or my family. That better may be I'm better with me. That better may be I'm mentally better. That better may be I'm physically better, because we're also going to be sharing and bringing in experts to help us deal with some of the mental and physical things that we're dealing with in our body. How do we feel better mentally? You just can't always say just feel better. How do you do it? How do you go to the doctor when you're scared to walk in the room because everybody in there has a mask on, including the doctor? So,
Right.
so that really is, exactly. That really is, where I'm going, what I'm trying to do. I believe the Lord has challenged me to do this. And so because of it, I'm going to step out into this arena and try to impart my life lessons to people.
When you think about, you charted this out over 12 weeks. I know you have a list of great subjects you're going to be dealing with, many of which I know are going to resonate, all of which are going to resonate. And there's no doubt people will be helped, and people are really hungry, I think, for somebody to sort of extend a line in the way that you're doing. But your timeline is going to take us through the coming presidential election.
Mm-hmm.
And, I have to say, no matter where you are on the, it's hard to even call it a spectrum. It's sort of just a dividing line in this country. Folks are just worried about the outcome of this election. They're worried about the actual process of voting, the sanctity of the vote, just so many issues that in the past we have not had to deal with, at least in such a conscious and intentional way.
Mm-hmm.
Are you going to be broaching any of that and sort of helping people to navigate that moment, sort of entering, during, and then coming out on the other side of that? Because it seems to me that is just impacting us all tremendously the closer we get to it.
The political arena is not an arena that I really engage myself in publicly, because at the end of the day, I don't put my confidence in man. And so for me, I think people have to make a conscious choice and a conscious decision based on the facts. And I think the facts will be very clear once we get closer. Well, they're pretty clear right now, but I think they'll get clearer once we get closer to the election. And you have to have a conscience, and you also have to feel that you are doing what's in the best interest, not only for you, but for others. So I'm not really going to get in the political battleground of fighting and telling people what to do, because people are going to do what they want to do anyway when it comes to political choices. What I will do is I will lay out what integrity looks like. I will lay out what honesty looks like. Even when honesty is bruised, it still tells the truth. So, I mean, those are the kinds of things that I think is my responsibility to deal with. And then the person has to make their own election choice for themselves. But I really believe at the end of the day, whomever ends up in the White House, they're in the house. The question is, who is in your house?
Right. And I think, I totally understand what you're saying about, lining up publicly on the political debate itself. But I think, and this, in our community, in the African-American community, and this is critically important in the African-American business community, just engaging in the process itself is part of our struggle, right? Particularly with younger people who tend to be very cynical about it and don't believe necessarily that their participation will matter, or who do believe that the system is rigged. I guess I was wondering, from your perch as a mother and a mentor and a leader, if you were just going to be encouraging people in any way in that vein, people who might say, I'm sitting out, like it's not going to matter. God will take care of it. I'm just not going to even engage.
No, absolutely. I will be encouraging individuals to vote because your voice does make a difference. And it is critically important. I'm just telling you that we all engage people in voting and standing up for what is right. I was so proud of the Milwaukee Bucks when they made the stance and took the position that they took. I text some of the players and told them, I am in 100% support of what you're doing. And the statement that they made was not so much a statement of, we don't want to play ball, because they really wanted to play ball. But the statement that they were making was, if we don't have a community of people that believe in us as leaders, then who really are we? Are we just a figment of an individual on a court running up and down? Or do we have sisters and brothers? Do we have other family members that will be, dealt with differently because they're not the celebrity? They had to deal with the reality, and they may have to make a very conscious choice to say, we're going to stand up and say, we believe that certain things just are unjust. And because of that injustice, we're going to do what we believe is right. So to that degree, I'm going to encourage people to definitely vote. I'm going to encourage them to definitely get engaged in understanding what the platform is for each of the candidates. And, be as informed and be as critically concerned about making sure they bring someone else along with them.
Yeah, I think no matter where you lived, for a lot of people, the Bucks became their team. In that moment, I was getting all kind of texts, the Bucks. So you had to have been proud.
Yeah.
I think that you and I have talked about this. We mentioned it a little here, but before we close, this whole issue of transformation and what this season is doing to us as humankind. Talk to me a bit about how, I know that you said you move through this day by day, which honestly is the most of us can do. And some days it's a heavier lift than others. But, you know, we do now feel the end of this calendar year coming. And 2020, you know, when we went into it, it was all, oh, 2020 vision and all this stuff. And then 2020 became this murky, shadowy, cloudy, crazy thing, right? This storm, as you said, that we're moving through. And it seems that you are figuring out, in spite of it all, how to dance in the storm, in the midst of the storm. But to what degree do you sort of, it's part of business, it's part of leadership, right? To try to figure out where we're going and when we might emerge from this and what we do want to look like, what the real possibilities are. How much do you engage in projecting and trying to plan in the midst of so much uncertainty?
I think that's a great question because it's something that you have to, or I at least have to deal with all the time. And it kind of varies depending on the circumstance or situation. And I'll give you an example. I sent a communication to one of our business partners, and I said, this is what I want to do. This is how I want to manage through the pandemic. And then after the pandemic is over, this is how I want to manage through the initial recovery. Then after the recovery period is over, then this is where we can re-engage and renegotiate. So sometimes it has to come in you looking at the strategy in phases. And we're going to talk about how to phase through a strategy as well. And so for me, that's really been one of the keys. And I'm not going to allow this stuff to weigh heavy on my shoulders. When I feel that it's weighing heavy on my shoulders, then that's my indication that maybe I need to shake that off, because I shouldn't be carrying excess weight that's not going to take me to where I'm going. And it always makes a runner run slow when they have too much weight on them. So you deal with all of the issues, all of the problems, all of the circumstances. The ones that won't bend and won't move, you shake them off. And you're going to feel lighter, you're going to feel better. And what better time to release some of the problems that you should have released before a pandemic came into existence, or restructure some of the problems before a pandemic came into existence. So don't always look at it as a negative. This is, I don't know, he may hear this interview, he may not. I'm sure somebody will call him and he'll go back and play it if he doesn't. My brother is a minister, he's a bishop. And I am the minister of music of his church. So every Sunday, I go in, I lay out the music for his first service, for his second service. I make sure the musicians are all ready to go. The songs are picked. The angel choir, the youth choir, the sanctuary choir, the voices of all the choirs that have to do their presentation to God that day. I make sure they're all ready and aligned. And, you know, I mean, my whole Sunday is consumed doing everything that has to do when it comes to music ministry. During this pandemic, I go in, and it's amazing. I get the praise team ready. They sing, they do one service, and they play that same service for everybody that needs to watch it. I've never had so much time on a Sunday in my entire life. So sometimes we look at things and we always talk about the negative of it. I don't know how I'm going to go back to, and I tease with him, do you really want me to go back to doing everything I was doing? Come on, let's let this be the model going forward. But I don't think he's going to do that. But anyway, just so you know, you got to look at everything relative to what it is. So for me, I get home at 9:30, quarter to 10 on a Sunday. I'm looking at, I can eat breakfast at home. I've never eaten Sunday morning breakfast at home. So I mean, those are the kinds of things that I tease people with a lot and say, you know what? And if you just kind of share those kind of things with yourself, it makes you feel better as a person. So yeah, there are periods of readjustment.
Yeah.
There's strategies behind readjustment. understanding the when, the where, the who, and the how is what's important.
Yeah. Yeah. I think, and seeing the silver linings, no matter how dark it gets, you know,
Yep.
it just helps. It helps immensely.
Yep.
When you look to the other side of this, you know, from what I have learned about your Power to Win series, it really aligns with what this show is about, right? This show was created so that we could sort of move through this time with an eye and an ear and a soul for how can we make these days count versus just sitting in this and counting the days.
Yes.
And I know that you want to see people come out of this better. You want to see the world come out of this better. And we throw these sorts of platitudes around a lot, but it's easy for them to sort of lose their meaning when things just feel heavy and hard. Do you truly believe, you know, that this is a moment that will make us better as a people, as a community, as a country?
Absolutely. This is a moment that will, well, I tell you this, for those that want to shift, this is a moment that will allow them to shift. You've had time to sit and think about maybe some of the things you wanted to do or something, some of the things you wanted to accomplish. You're over 50 and you're saying to yourself, I have more years behind me than I do in front of me. What am I going to do with that time I have in front of me? You're in your 20s and 30s. You're going to totally see this world differently and how to manage in it and how to matriculate to the next level. You know, social media certainly has changed the platform of how many of us will do business and the way we will do business. So understanding, I don't want to think about what's going to happen to me after we come through this and start recovery. I want to start thinking about this now, so that the moment, you know, this thing starts slowing down, I'm already ahead of the curve. If you wait until everything is done and everything is over, then I'm just going to tell you, you're going to be so far behind those that have pre-thought where they're going. It's almost just like the mask situation, you know, those that had the ability to go in and buy up hundreds of thousands of masks, they didn't wait until the pandemic was announced all over the world. They did that real early. And I'm not going to talk about all of that, but I'm just going to say they did that real early. So they had captured and were able to dictate going forward who, what, when, and where would receive what they had. Same thing with, you know, it wasn't a surprise to me that some of these businesses had locked up their supplies once they saw what the demands were going to be. So they were in control. My question is, what will you be in control of?
Yeah. Well, people will be in control of being able to watch your show and get your book, but only if you tell us how. So how do people access the show? How can people gain access to your book?
Well, they can watch the show. The show starts September 22nd, 7 p.m. Central Standard Time, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 9 p.m. I guess it would be, no, 7:39. I mean, yeah, there would be. No, I'm going the wrong way.
7 Central. Yeah, 7 Central.
7 Central.
9 West Coast, right?
7 Central, 5 West Coast.
5 West Coast.
5 West Coast, 5 West Coast, and then 6 p.m. On the East Coast.
Eastern Time, right.
Yes, yes. And they'll be able to go to my website, which is valeriedanielscarter.com. They'll be able to go to YouTube, Valerie Daniels Carter. They'll be able to go to Facebook, Valerie Daniels Carter. They'll be able to go to Instagram, Valerie Daniels Carter. And they'll be able to go to www.valeriedanielscarter.com. So the website, Facebook, Instagram. They'll also be able to view it on the platform my church has for Holy Redeemer Institutional Church of God in Christ, their website. So just a number of outlets that we have. hoping that it will be a blessing to many people. And there also will be an opportunity for them to share with us other topics that they would like for us to share with them.
And this will be every Tuesday, right?
Every Tuesday for the next 12 weeks. So it's a 12-week series, and we're looking forward to having everyone engaged.
It is always a pleasure. It is always a blessing. Please, Dr. Valerie Daniels Carter, stay safe above all and stay well. I hope to see you soon.